trying to stay not complicated. Albert Einstein, theory of relativity.
I need to grow my business. I want to be able to use the best tech out there. You're not supporting me. Where do I go?
If you can't download your data, you know that's not your CRM.
Guys, this is going to be a good one today. It's a Saturday morning at like 8 a.m. I woke up at 4 in the morning excited for this talk because if you're in the roofing industry, you need to hear what we're about to talk about. I don't know how much you pay attention, but there's a lot of things changing in the industry. You have the AccuLynx acquisition. You have all the private equity activity that's been going on for a while now. You have Home Depot coming into our space. And then you have tech. So for those four things, our industry is changing really fast. It's a way different landscape than it was when I started 7 years ago. And I can't help but to think it was easier to start a roofing company 7 years ago when I started one than it is today. So we can't ignore these things like I was luckily able to do just because of timing. Like I got to grow my business the slow, hard way and figure things out year after year, slowly as I went. And I think that opportunity and that window is shrinking because of all the things going on in our industry. I met Raul about a month ago when I had already been in this headspace and like paying attention to what was going on. And Raul's introduced tech to me and tech to my roofing company that like I didn't even know was possible because nobody thinks like him in the roofing industry. It just doesn't exist. You're not going to meet another guy involved in software that thinks like Raul. So we're going to sit down with Raul today and just have a conversation about the industry, tech, and then the software that he's founded and how it can help roofers. So, Raul.
Pleasure to meet everyone. Thank you, Andy, for having me on your show.
Yeah. So first, you started Radiance how long ago?
The endeavor started 7 years ago, and it was actually, I stumbled upon a contractor that the knowledge that I have on business, I said, wow, I can help this guy, you know. And fast forward, when he got inundated with orders, I realized there was a problem. Didn't know where the files were. He said, I know I owe you money, I just don't know where. And he introduced me at the time to his CRM, and it kind of, the problem was evident to me, but try explaining that from a technology point of view. I said, oh, I understand right away what the issue is. This is a partial solution. It's a fractional. It doesn't answer the whole picture. So that's what gave birth to the concept of Radiance ERP, which is the flagship product for our company called Knowledge Transfer LLC.
Yep. And you're working for a roofing company. Where did, before that, obviously you had the tech background and the knowledge in tech to be able to look at this. What system was he using?
What were they using?
Yeah.
At the time when I met the gentleman, he had signed up for Job Nimbus, and he did not turn on the features. So as soon as I got in, I activated all the features, and they were amazed. They're like, wow, look at all these things it can do. From a tech's point of view, however, I said, well, those are features, and sometimes people use the word program. Yeah, we need to program. I said, actually, you're talking about configuring it. So you need to configure it the way you want, but that's right there. That's the first reason if you want to call a purpose for a Radiance. If you can configure it to a certain point, great, but most systems, as you know, right, can only be configured so much. The programming is when you really go custom and can do a bunch of stuff. So within a couple of days, I already knew that it was not customizable, it was only configurable. So for anyone messing with their phone or their laptops or whatever they use, most things that you can do is configure things. You can't actually program against it, you know? And that's kind of what led to the idea, because I found myself submitting tickets and I was being told, yeah, vote it up and eventually we'll get to it. And I'm thinking, wow, I need that now. You know, I mean, meaning the contractor. For anyone that's hearing this and they hear all this tech stuff, throw it aside. Look at it from your view, right? From the, I need my business to make money, and I need to pay my people, and I gotta deliver for my customer. Well, if the software only goes so far, that's it, you're handicapped. So here comes this great software to a bottleneck, then now you're stuck, you know?
100%. And that's the situation I found myself in with Job Nimbus. Like over the last, I would say frustration started 12 months ago. You know, I'm a guy that learned Job Nimbus and I fully optimized the entire Job Nimbus for everything it could do. So like I know there's a lot of guys out there that they can't figure out how to even set it up to even take advantage of the tools that exist in Job Nimbus. Right. But then like I'm here to say, I have Job Nimbus tutorial videos on YouTube. I answer calls helping people set up their Job Nimbus. I kind of learned every piece of Job Nimbus and put it to use in my business, and it still wasn't enough. I was still stuck. And like what you just said, you reach out to your account rep and you're like, hey, I'm trying to do this, or I need this reporting feature, or I need this to happen when this happens. This is slowing us up here. There's too much manual entry here. What can we do? And basically it's go fuck yourself. We're not going to do that. And why does Job Nimbus, why does AccuLinks have that, like, why don't they help us customize?
Here's what's going to surprise everyone, and you're going to see my answer. I'm actually going to defend Job Nimbus, which is, most people are like, what? Really? Why? I'm like, hear me out. What everyone calls a CRM, it's really what's really called SaaS, 4 little letters, software as a service. The model that these are launched under simply says, let's build something for the masses, because that way we get subscribers and they get stuff they couldn't do before. That's what you said when you set it up for you, you max configured it. The problem in that is that they have to stay within a certain boundary. And when they change something, it automatically changes it for everyone. And that can be a problem, because think about it. If I'm Job Nimbus and I've got 6,000 contractors on my platform and I change one thing, I'm going to get a whole bunch of calls. Hey, what happened? Where did this go? I used to do this, So again, defending them in that regard, if it's SaaS for the purpose of a CRM, for mass adoption on a broad use, then yeah, you're going to reach that. It's not that the guy wouldn't want to help you, it's that he can't, because the minute he does, he can break it for everybody else.
Yeah, and then what does that mean for us as contractors, that I'm using Job Nimbus or I'm using AccuLinks and I do have it fully optimized, I use all the features, but what that literally means by definition is I have the same exact tools, software, tech as every single one of my competitors, and anyone that knows how to grow a business, you have to be able to differentiate yourself. And how do you differentiate yourself if you have the same tools as the next guy?
I've got an answer for you. Let's go to Walmart. Let's go to the meat section. When you go shopping at when you do your groceries, and you go to where, you say, hey, I want to buy some meat, some chicken for tonight to make dinner. What do you see? You see packages, right? And you see $4.37, $5.16, whatever, $8.39. The price, the package is identical. The chicken inside is different weights. So which one do you grab? You just grab the one that makes sense in terms of weight and price or what you think you need. You're not really even particular about anything anymore, because now what you're looking at is a commodity, And that to me is the single biggest problem that I've always had with SaaS. Is I walked into, this is how this even came about. I showed up at a house. Keep in mind, I want to understand how this business worked. So I showed up to give an estimate, and there were 3 other roofing companies there. Mind you, they're also trying to feed their family and take care of their people, right? But I saw on the table 3 estimates, all of them identical, with the logo on the left and the price on the right. And I'm like, I'm back in Walmart. There we go, 3 packets. So for anyone that says, oh man, all this tech stuff goes over my head, then look at it like that. Go to the grocery store, and when you look at those packets, that's what you become. Unfortunately, and again, keep in mind, the model is the way it was developed, that you become commoditized. So now, I remember when I first started hearing the buzzword, Google has this new feature. And I'm like, yeah, it's a matter of time before everybody uses it. Now you become irrelevant, So I'm glad you used that buzzword, because no 2 people are identical, and no 2 companies are identical. So I don't know where the assumption came that all software would be, the same for everyone. If you're using it for personal use or just like Facebook or whatever, you don't, fine. But when you get into running a business, I always say contractors, it's a complex business, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And it gets complicated when you put into genericized, broad use software.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, because my entire business career, we've just tried like hell to differentiate ourselves, because we know our numbers, we know what we need to charge. We have a growing company, we have overhead, we take care of our people. So like I'm priced towards the higher end of the market typically. And there's only so many things you can do to differentiate yourself when you're all using the same tech. And like we do those things through inspections, through our sales process, through training our people. Like we do differentiate ourselves, but how much easier is it to differentiate ourselves with the tools that we're building out in the ERP and Radiance? And then on top of that, with all these private equity companies and these big conglomerates coming into roofing, they're not using a basic Job Nimbus account. They're not using a basic AccuLynx account. They've got sophistication, they've got money, they're going to use the best tech in the industry. So how is the little guy that can't even figure out how to do the Job Nimbus estimate templates going to compete with this guy who's using the full power of AI and everything that's available out there in the market?
Now, this is where I get in trouble because I get told repeatedly by people, keep it simple, don't make it complicated. But here's the bottom line, watch my hand. Here's the CRM, here's the ERP. When I talk about ERP, ERP is basically the parent of all apps, all software. Without getting into the techno jargon, a CRM is a subset of an ERP. Now, for the contractor that says, yeah, I got this great SaaS CRM, you're good if you're going to be real small. But if you're really trying to compete with a conglomerate or, like you just said, private equity, they're using ERP power. They're using customized, embedded stuff that talks to other systems and stuff. And that, to me, 5-7 years ago when I started this endeavor, I knew that was the solution. But everyone was on the, yeah, make it simple, make it easy, make it convenient. I'm like, you're basically requesting to be commoditized. So on that topic of, remember the chicken packs? This one is hand-fed, or this one is, open field grown. But once you put them in the package, you can't tell which one was used chemicals and which one was this. You all look the same. So every contractor, in my opinion, if we're talking about Middle America, the base is unique. Every contractor should be on its own instance, its own unique implementation, because I have yet to meet two contractors that are exactly identical. Even if they drive the same truck, they don't even have it, customized the same way. They would like their stuff different. So look at your business, right? You have two different companies and you gave them different images. Why don't you make them identical? Just say, yeah, it's just version A, version B. No, it has a uniqueness. So to me, the single biggest problem, you grab a contractor that's local, unique, has an identity, has a culture, and now you put them in this, rigid, one size fits all. It's almost insane.
Yeah. And then what you just said, you knew this was the problem 5 to 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. I obviously didn't. I was coming up with my simple Job Nimbus account. Mm-hmm. But that's why this talk's so important, is because the industry's changing.
Yeah.
And if we don't take advantage of these tools and we don't differentiate ourselves with the tech that's out there, we're going to get swallowed up. We may go out of business, or we're just going to stay super, super, super small. And most of the viewers on YouTube, they wouldn't be watching this video if that's what they wanted, if they wanted to stay small, if they didn't want to grow their business. That's who's watching these videos.
Let's go back 5-7 years. Back then, I would say, yeah, go ahead and use it, because it's good enough. But now you got conglomerates coming in after you. You're competing against folks that have much more advanced, robust systems. So it's gone from, yeah, it's a choice, to it's become existential. Yeah. And that's really what bothers me, is that it's an attack on the middle class. If we don't have a middle class, we got nothing. We really don't have anything. So you gotta try to balance that equation somehow, or you're gonna have a massive imbalance. Yeah. So people think that it's promoting another software. Even one of our colleagues introduced it as it's a CRM. I said, no, it's more than that, but that's what people know. They hear the words. I think you even showed me a text message chain where people were calling it a CRM, and of course they're like, oh, I've been using the wrong word. It's a re-education campaign, but keep in mind, I'm not the genius that goes and builds all these roofs. You guys are. That's an incredible gift that you guys have, and a trade that you guys do. The software's supposed to enable you to continue to do that, but in your own image. You follow me? In your own, in how you wish to exist. Genericized software kind of took that from you, and now you got conglomerates coming in saying we can do it better than you simply because you're using this. So, like I said, I don't have anything against them. It's just the game has changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one advantage roofers like me have over the conglomerates, over PE, is that we are roofers, we are actual operators, and they are not. They are not. They don't know shit about roofing. So that's our biggest advantage. But the gap in tech is going to be so large that it's just so hard to compete, because like marketing, obviously you don't have a business without leads, you don't have a business without marketing. And the things that you're able to do with ERP power in the marketing, in the retargeting, in the sales process are crazy. So like let's stay on the ERP versus CRM a little bit, just so people that understand. CRM is Job Nimbus, CRM is Service Titan, CRM is AccuLynx. And ERP, as you said, sits above that, and the CRMs are a subsect of what can be in the ERP. The way I view that is even now as a Job Nimbus customer, I use Job Nimbus as my CRM, but I use CallRail for call tracking. I use Rilla for recording sales appointments. I use Company Cam for inspections and photos. I use QuickBooks for accounting, Arrivy for dispatching and scheduling. And just like everybody else watching, I'm sure they use all these different softwares to power their business, to differentiate ourselves so that we operate more efficiently and we have the best tools. Because there's not one software that's going to be the best at everything, the best tool for everything. It's just impossible. You're not going to compete with Company Cam on a photo app because that's all Company Cam does. They specialize and they have the best photo app out there. So let's use all the best tools because there's not one size fits all. But then the ERP power is essentially let's get them all talking to each other.
Yes. Let's start on that because, see, the word I use a lot is I say I'm platform agnostic. And people are like, oh, there he goes using those words. It's like, think about it for a second. You just said Company Cam. I have, from the beginning, always said, hey, thumbs up Company Cam. I'm not trying to recreate Company Cam. I don't care if you use Company Cam. All I know is that if you're using Company Cam, what's it not doing for you? You know, because I can program against it. Why? Because they have a very robust 360 API, which is a fancy word of saying send and receive. It's got webhooks, and whoever designed it, compliment, shout out to them, like, hey, thank you, you get it.
Let's stay on this real quick, because just an example. You just said Company Cam has a 360 API, which means that we can develop automations and do all sorts of things as far as importing and exporting data from Company Cam. Yeah. Company Cam has that native to the software. Job Nimbus has a Company Cam integration built into Job Nimbus. So you go into the settings, you turn on your Company Cam integration, and then all that you get with that is when you create a contact in Job Nimbus, also create a contact with the same information in Company Cam. And then when you take a picture in Company Cam, send that picture to the photos in Job Nimbus. Bullshit, because you know what you can do. So like an example of what you could do is when I take the first picture at a home in Company Cam, if the home value is above 500,000, send a text, email, postcard to the entire neighborhood, and then also one step further, throw them in a geofencing campaign. All automated by a photo taken in Company Cam. So if Company Cam has that power, but Job Nimbus is telling us, like, yeah, use Company Cam, integrate with it. We'll create contacts in Company Cam every time you do it in Job Nimbus. It's like, that's not even 5% of the power and the possibility that's out there with an ERP like Radiance.
Remember the word I used earlier, config? It's configurable only to a certain extent. It's integrated only to a certain extent. If Company Cam was genius enough to make a 360 API that says, here's your data, go ahead and use it, and you can leverage that, now you can use it well beyond its boundaries, you know? Company Cam is an amazing photo-taking app. A lot of CRMs are good CRMs, but those integrations are limited. And that's, again, going back to what I said about the broadness of SaaS. If they were to make it too enabled, too powerful, people start to get lost and confused. And we get back to the topic of keep it simple. But you're already dealing with market forces, pricing, suppliers, reviews, conglomerate competition, right? You got a lot of forces out there, and then you still got to buy materials, go build the stuff, make sure nobody gets hurt, and then make it to the end of the year holiday party, right? All that going on cannot be subject to you being limited. So, again, it's fair to compete because that's who we are, right? We love to compete, and I would say bring it on. But once you get into an arena, you say, okay, all right, we're going to start the race, and right away you see someone handcuffed, or they're pulling extra weight, or this one is being told you got to walk back 10 feet, or you can only run on that lane. We can run, you got to walk. It becomes imbalanced. So that exactly what you said right there is I see a few systems saying we're all in one. I'm like, nonsense. There's no such thing. Right off the bat, I even challenged one. I picked the person that has decided to become an ambassador for what we do because they finally got it. They put us through a vetting process. They said, you're the real deal. And they said, but we have one more challenge. We're going to pick one CRM that says they're all in one. I want you to tell me why it's not. I said, grab it randomly. Boom, they pick one. Right off the bat, they said, we want to do this and send out a list and so forth. And said, here you go. Do this, do this, do this, and do this. Right away, they even stopped me. They said, well, that's just it. It doesn't have contacts. And then it doesn't verify the emails. If you have the list, then it can send it. I said, well, there you go. It's not all in one. I have yet to see one. QuickBooks, is an amazing accounting software, right? Peachtree is a competitor of them. Somebody wants Peachtree. Somebody wants QuickBooks. So why should I have to be defaulting to one? And then here's the real sin. Why should I be defaulted to a configuration that is genericized for all when there's nothing generic about the way I run my business?
Yeah, a good example you just made me think of. Job Nimbus introduced voice AI into their software. I thought it was really cool. I signed up, I used it, I did the demo, we set it up. I think I pay them $250 a month to use it. It's not a great tool. It's supposed to be able to schedule appointments, but it keeps glitching out. And it'll say like, how is tomorrow at 1 p.m.? And the customer will say yes. And then it'll go, 1 p.m. is not available. How's 2 p.m.? The customer will say yes. How about 3 p.m.? Yes. So the tool sucks, in my opinion, and there's better tools out there. So why am I stuck with an inferior tool when there's tools out there like Vappy that can really power my business and really be an effective AI voice? And then not to mention, to your point, everybody's got the same AI voice as me if they're using Job Nimbus. So
Right.
How do I differentiate?
Let's go on that point. Remember what I said earlier, the word I use, platform agnostic? Vappy.ai, which you just referred to right now, is one of the many different AI tools that are coming out. People are asking me, why are you giving it a thumbs up? First of all, you know how you said that you got a message you didn't like what it was saying? On Vappy alone, when you go to choose your AI LLM, which is a fancy word for large language learning model, which is the big word for AI, you pick the LLM and the version of the model, and you test. You see which one actually sounds like you, and some of them have latency, and you can put tonality and make your prompt what you want it to do. When I looked at Vappy.ai, I said, cool, because what if my customer doesn't want to use Gemini? What if they don't want to use ChatGPT? What if they want to use Grok or Super Grok or Perplexity Max? I'm going to go and tell them, no, this is what you get because this is what I'm giving you. Nobody likes that. That's when I start talking like this and saying it's even un-American, to be telling me what I got to do or what I got to use. Let me pick the engine that I want. Let me wire it up the way I need to use it and then get you, my vendor, to make it possible for me. So that right there is why I like with Company Cam being very much a 360, very user-friendly for integrations. Vappy.ai gives you the engines. You can pick a phone number, attach it to that, and it's got an API key, also 360, that I can then send and receive data, so I can put full power behind it. If something comes along later that's better, then you can switch or whatever, but that's where the competitive advantage comes in. If they're good and they stay good, I mean, I've not seen anyone come in to even remotely rival Company Cam because they do what they do very well. And see how that gets away from the all-in-one? Company Cam's not trying to be all-in-one. Company Cam's just really good at those pictures. Vappy's trying to be really good at being that AI voice interface that you can connect. So
you just said something super important, and it's like one of the reasons you're so different in this industry. And it's like, if something better comes along later, let's wire it up and let's switch it out. And not when Job Nimbus introduces some tool, I can now use it for my business to improve my business. And I'm like a month and a half into the build process with you, and I'm deciding on all the softwares I want to use. I'm building the functionalities and the automations and how I want everything to look. And I'm just bringing those things to you. We're having a meeting about it. Yeah. We're talking about how to, and then you just say yes. Yeah. So to our point about differentiation, everybody in my market could use Radiance, and we would all be running a different software. We'd all be running completely different systems, and we'd all be completely different.
Some people will be using, Ring Central. Some will use Vonage. Some will use Twilio. Some will use Intermedia, which is another one that we kind of favor. But absolutely, that to me levels the playing field, because we're a big conglomerate might say, well, we have all this technology and all these capabilities. Well, so does Andy, So does Doug, who I talked to yesterday, I've met some guys that are like, man, we're just starting out. I'm like, well, here's some free tools. This isn't for everybody. I mean, not everybody can just be like, yeah, I can afford, advanced technology. But give them tools, give them resources to go ahead and go make some money. Like yesterday, I believe you saw me mention, some guys go out and buy, 1,000 yard signs because they're trying to get the best price. I'm like, guys, go to Amazon, 2 yard signs, custom, $15. Put a Vappy number on it, the prompt, choose the engine. It charges you 16 cents per minute when they call. If nobody ever calls, you don't get a bill. You know, I had a contractor tell me, yeah, I got this thing. It's going to be $2,000 a month. I'm like, why? You know, what if they never call? You know, so you see where it gets smart? The guy was literally floored. He says, I mean, I can put a yard sign in a subdivision with AI talking to them about my business, about the weather data. It cost me $16, and if they never called and I didn't waste much than $16, I'm like, yes. See, just smarter, not, genericized.
It's hard not to go all over the place with all this stuff because there's so
Yeah.
much. And like, you know, if you think about your CRM and then all the different softwares you use and all the different tools that are intertwined in there, it's hard not to go all over the place. But we're talking about VAPI and voice AI a lot. I just want to give like a powerful example to open people's eyes up to what VAPI can do in your business.
And then when you do that, I'm going to share an example of when I first started integrations. Go ahead.
You just said one, but then also, because you can have AI crawl your data, and then all your data is in the same spot, which I want to get to that at some point. We can ask the AI that's inside our system to crawl our data, to crawl our opportunity pipeline, everybody in a follow-up or lead stage, and ask the AI, find me the most likely names to convert if I call them right now. And then because all our data is in the same spot, the AI is going to know who responded to email blasts, who responded to text blasts, who opened all the emails we sent, what area are they in, have we done roofs near them. It's going to know all those things and then pull out some names. And then if you have a tool like VAPI, the AI voice, you can have VAPI do outbound literally 24/7, constantly calling your pipeline. When is Job Nimbus going to introduce that? Are we going to wait for Job Nimbus to introduce something like that? Well, one, they're probably never going to. And then two, the tech is out there to be able to implement all that stuff right now.
I wouldn't even say Job Nimbus. It's just all SaaS.
Yeah, I'm picking on Job Nimbus because I'm a Job Nimbus user. I've said him 100 times.
Like I said,
Sorry,
I always
Job
look at
Nimbus.
it like this. There's folks that work at Job Nimbus, that like they work at AccuLinks. We're all, right at the end of the day, we're all just trying to, right, the American dream. We're trying to get somewhere that's better than where we're at. So, and it surprises the hell out of people. They're like, so who are your competitors? I said, I have none, you know. What do you mean you have none? I said, what do you use? I don't care what you use. What's it not doing? Keep using it. I'll connect to it or wrap around it, you know. It's usually the software that then comes back and says, oh, we don't have an API, or we have one way, 180 instead of 360. I'm going, that's the problem with your software, not with us. You know, they're the ones limiting you. So that's where the issue becomes. But I could care less what they're using. That's why I use that word agnostic a lot. It's like, remember when we first met and I used that word? It went boom, right over, because like, what does it mean? Now, when the epiphany kicked in, you're like, oh, shoot, this guy's...
He doesn't believe in God?
Oh,
what are you saying?
and see, that's just it. People may take it into a religious connotation, but the word is used to reference that you have no commitment to any, you know? So in this regard, it's the best word to describe platform agnostic, because it says, when you got it, you're like, oh, shoot, this guy's really telling me I can go pick what I want, and as long as they have a way to connect to it, we can make what I'm using robust. Because, watch this, and I've had these people say it sometimes. They say, well, what's to stop me from just signing up with these apps? Why do I even need you? Why do I need Radiance?
Good luck.
Yeah, I said, well, there's one problem. Where are you going to put all the data? Oh, in 17 different places? You know, there's that, see what I'm saying? So Radiance is, at the end of the day, a command and control nexus for your business. Let everything come to, you know, come home. And then when you're talking right now about crawling the data, crawl against that instead of crawling 17 different systems partially.
Let's stay on the data, because the first time I met you, you gave a talk about how dangerous it was that you don't own your own data. With somebody like, you know, the CRM softwares, the existing ones out there. The talk was mainly you introed with like data. And me at the time, like, didn't view that as that big of a deal. I didn't really understand it. I saw how having all my data in the same spot to make me more efficient and make my reporting better, the use of AI to crawl my data, I saw that right away, but I didn't see the danger of someone else owning all my data. And now it's been more obvious than ever with the AccuLinks acquisition how dangerous that is. So talk a little bit about
Well, I can only say that if I'm the acquirer and I have access to all that data, I can tell where the pain points are with the consumer, the sales rep, the manager, the product manager, the production manager, the front desk person, the battles between the owners. All that data is in there, and, you know, where did it just go? You know, I'm just saying,
Yeah, so Veris, the company that bought AccuLynx, two biggest shareholders of that company are BlackRock and Vanguard. So just like the whole theme of what we're talking about is conglomerates entering the roofing space, Home Depot, these giant trillionaire firms entering our space. And what the fuck are we supposed to do with our little ant roofing companies?
Brings up a good question. Did they buy the company? Did they buy the data? You'd have to ask them.
Yeah, for sure. And then you've got the insurance carriers intertwined in Veris. So now insurance carriers have roofers' data. So like now it's been more obvious than ever. And you see on Facebook, there's people posting, hey, if you need help pulling all your data out of AccuLynx, like hit me up, I got you. And they're charging it as a service now because why is it so hard to get your data out of these softwares?
Well, honestly, and here's what I found compelling, and this is where I get into the isms. You know, you've heard Dimitri say, you and your isms. I'm like, well, you'll see why.
I'll define them for you if we get lost.
Yeah, exactly. But it came to a surprise to me initially. The very first time I had a customer want to take their data, and it said that they could, and when they tried, they were not able to. They got basic contact data, but not the actual internal data, you know, and it belongs to them. You know, it really should belong to the customer, not the platform. But, you know, what you sign is what you agree to, and it is a B2B transaction. It's not consumer law. So you're supposed to be able to keep your data, and that's one of the tenets that we put right off the bat. I know I use fancy words and stuff, but there's closed source, there's open source. We built ours on open source from the get-go. First video we put out said, we're based on open source, because why would I want to build something based on, you know, from scratch when the world, you know, open source belongs to humanity? Why should I be the guy that owns all of it? So right off the bat it said, boom, open source.
Stay on that for a second. Yeah. Just like explain in like layman, dumb roofer terms, like the difference. How do I understand the difference between open source and closed source?
Sure. Open source code, well, let's start with closed source. A platform, a CRM, builds everything from scratch. They own all the code, and nobody can modify it. Almost sounds like Apple, right? A little bit. Nobody can modify it. Nobody can tap into it unless they approve you, authorize you, license you. Open source is when you just dump it on the world and you say, here you go, it's for everyone. Go ahead and use it, you know, repurpose it, extend it. These phones that everybody's walking around with, that they call it their, you know, their Android phone. Well, guess what? This phone right here is a Samsung manufactured phone. It's got Google, you know, on top of it, but the code is Android, open source. It's free to the world.
I always knew I was an Android guy for a reason. I just made the switch. I'm a sellout.
So people ask me, like, why aren't you an Apple guy? I'm like, because it's closed source.
That makes sense, because even in my dumb brain back then, I used to say, Android's better. They have widgets. I can do all this custom stuff. That makes sense. It's open source.
I can make this thing, look, I can make it sing. It's a ukulele if I wanted to, you know? I can make this thing literally run parallel to me, you know? I can't do that with an Apple phone. So you tell yourself, what are you? You want to just get in line and go quietly into the night? Or do you want to have a say in whatever the hell it is that you're using? So, right. Yeah, open source is a gift from humans, to humanity, you know? Zuckerberg recently released Llama, their version of AI. They made it open source. OpenAI started as open source because they said, you know, we can go into the market sooner. 7 years ago, I was doing these things when I first started Radiance. First of all, the name even Radiance, contractors measure in degrees from the inside out, right? Radiance is measuring from the outside in. Same problem, different perspective.
Yeah, what I understand is with closed source, if you're going to make improvements to a software that is built on closed source, you have to go into your original private code and build everything from scratch. Whereas because Radiance is on open source, if I want to introduce an inventory module for my metal fabrication business, we can pull an existing inventory module built on code into our thing and now tweak it, customize it for the way I need it.
Exactly.
So your improvement speed is 1,000,000 times faster. But yes, I don't own this private code that's, you know, whatever.
Picture this, and I hate to cut you off on that, but picture this. Open source, at least the way I see it, there's 1 million developers out there contributing to it. They want things to be better. They even use it, right? When I tell you that we're moving to AI, how many people could I possibly hire and pay before I could do that system-wide? the community's doing it for us. You follow me? They're bringing it up to speed. All I got to do now is just make sure I, refine it. But that's the way things are supposed to be. Code was, in my opinion, humbly, with all companies out there that have their own platforms, code should have always been open source from the beginning. It should never have been private. But go ask weighing systems, before they got wiped out, and all the other companies that thought that closed source was the way to go. It's not. Android built the entire infrastructure, Google built the entire infrastructure on top of Android because it's open source, Yeah.
Right. So back to the data, because you've pulled data out of AccuLinks for customers before, because I know there's a lot of people online charging for that service because it's hard to do. You need to know how to do it. But you actually do it just included in your service if you become a Radiance user. What do you have to do? You have to there's a roundabout way to do it because it's not simple. You're basically stealing the data.
I'm gonna avoid the isms again, and mainly because, again, it's not even necessary to bring them up in this context. But to me, traditional support, you've seen it. You go to support, and what do they always say? Clear your cache and toss your cookies. I can't believe how many times they tell you to toss your cookies. I'm like, I'm not a drunk. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm not. Toss your cookies. It's like when people get confused. They're like, why do they always tell me to toss my cookies? Well, it seems to be like when you go to support, if you go beyond that, now they got to escalate you. And it's like, okay, basic support just is garbage. Concierge is a whole other scenario, So Radiance, by design, has concierge-level support, which when you send in a ticket, it doesn't land on one person's bin. It hits a group of people. They look at it collectively and they say, oh, they mean this and they want that, and they'll run with it, And here they are, almost like the sum of the parts. They're all contributing. So when the answer does come back, if it's simple, they'll just take care of it. If it requires a session, they'll request a Zoom, and now you got to come in there and tell me what's going on. It's a different approach to I personally, I don't even think I use any software now that uses traditional support, type in the box and wait for an answer. And I'm a big endorser of Apollo IO and Fathom.video. I hope they're listening because, put people behind that. Stop with these little chat boxes. I can't stand put in the box and then 3 days later or so many tickets later it starts getting escalated.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. I just did a 2-hour Zoom for Metal App's inventory needs. And basically in the Zoom, I know exactly what I needed to do. I know how we take invoices, how we scan them, how we find out how much raw material was used to produce that job, the Excel sheets that we're using to count things, and then one step further, the QuickBooks entries to adjust my inventory and send it to cost of goods sold. I know my whole process and how broken and manual it is, and we spent 2 hours just I'm screen sharing, I'm showing them everything we do, and then we're talking about how to take an inventory module that's available in open source and then tweak it for my individual needs. And it's just like, yes, you got it. I'm talking to a team of 4. We're going through it, and now I'm going to have it built out for exactly how we need it. So it's just like everything's been a yes. It's just development time. Everything's been a yes. We just have to build it. Yes, let us build it. Yes, let us build it.
So you heard me say it early on. I'm defending the CRMs out there. I'm defending the SaaS platforms. Everyone needs to bring home a paycheck, But there's a time for everything. Like when you're starting out, look at me, I'm even saying it. You just open your doors, go get Job Nimbus, go get, basic CRM, get the least expensive one or whatever works for you. Start somewhere. But in your case, once you start growing and you have a vision, you have to customize. And you can't do it through standard support, and you sure as hell can't do it with configurations or limited integrations. And that's where the conglomerates are coming in, which you refer to as the private equity, which I hope you guys can stop calling them private equity.
GP.
Yeah, stop. Private equity is general partners of limited partnerships that source money to make investments. They are general partners, not private equity. So please stop using that term.
I used to think that this type of tech and this type of software was just for when you get a little bigger and you outgrow your system. I mean, that doesn't mean I think someone on day one should get on Radiance. But one of the best ways for us to differentiate ourselves against the GPs or the PEs, if you didn't pick that up, is neighborhood targeting. And I'm not the only guy saying that. Everybody online, everybody knows that's a best practice. If you have a neighborhood where you've done 4 roofs in and there's 1,500 homes in that development, obviously that's the best neighborhood to target with your marketing, because your marketing gets a lot cheaper if it's hyper targeted on where you want to put it. Yeah. So neighborhood marketing is giant, and then retargeting is giant. Like marketing to people that already showed interest in your business, however they did that, whether it was a scan a QR code, visit your website, click the Facebook ad, however they showed interest. So if we can market everybody through retargeting and then hyper targeting for the developments and customers we want to market to, we can use all the advertising channels available to us because we're hyper targeted and we're not going to break the bank. We can have a small marketing budget but make it effective. The problem that we've ran into over and over again is all the manual labor it takes to actually do like all these best practices. Like I'm downloading, if I want to send a TV commercial, a TV streaming commercial to everyone that I've sent an estimate to, someone's got to go into Job Nimbus, pull a custom report, upload the CSV, go into ads or go into our geofencing, upload a CSV. They've got it. We can automate all of that with Radiance, I've learned. So I can constantly have the CRM side of Radiance feeding all of my retargeting audiences and feeding all of my hyper-targeted neighborhood audiences without anybody having to lift a finger. So now I can have a small marketing budget, but be sure I'm only marketing to the people I want to market to.
Yes, sir.
And I don't have all the payroll expense and manual labor of trying to consistently do all those things with the tools that I have now.
Let me take what you just said and follow me for a second. Trying to stay not complicated. Albert Einstein, theory of relativity.
I'm dying because I'm trying to stay not complicated. Okay, so Albert Einstein.
But you're going to love this. You're going to love this. Ready? There we go. And you're going to see where I'm going with it. Ready? You got to keep a straight face, sir. All right. Okay. Ready? We're going to keep this real simple as much, but follow me here, right? Audience, please stay with me. You know, Albert Einstein and his theory of relativity, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
When you see why I'm bringing it up,
I'll clean it up
blow
if
your
it
mind.
needs to be cleaned up. I got it.
Albert Einstein and his theory of relativity, people are like, oh, that's genius talk. No, it's a simple theory. It says the larger and closer something is, the more influence you have. When I ask a contractor, what's your market? Oh, I'm an Orlando roofing contractor. Orlando has 6 million people. Where are you roofing? Everywhere. 6 million people and 1% called you. You can't do that many roofs. Where is your market? I'm confused. They say, well, see, that's what I mean. So what you're describing right now is relativity. Your family, you call them your relatives. Hello, there it is. They're close to you. You know, so you have influence. Every contractor that I've ever run into keeps trying to say that they want it as broad as possible. They're driving their trucks from, Palm Coast down to, Fort Myers, just trying to get work. You're too broad. Remember relativity. The larger and closer an object is, the more influence. So what you refer to as neighborhoods, I call them zones. Watch this. Let's do some basic math. If I'm a contractor that's doing 200 roofs a year and I want to do 1,000, 4 zones, 4 subdivisions that total 10,000 homeowners, about 10% of those are going to need a replacement. That's 1,000 roofs. Focus on them. Retarget to them. Repeat your message to them, whether it's a yard sign, a mailer, a geo campaign, Park your truck, I share the story, the ones that I needed to get into a subdivision, I had no reason to get into that subdivision, so a lady was walking her dog, and I paid her $40, and I rented her dog so I could walk the subdivision. Local, I got to get in there. So she actually let me use her dog for $40. That relativity is important because, watch, you can still get the SEO lead, you can still buy the lead, or the door knock, or the word of mouth, or you drove by and you saw damage. That's all relative, that's all part of the encompassing. But if you focus your energies on those zones and you put perimeters on them and you get to know those people, brother, you'll never go without any work. And now you take that complexity of Albert Einstein and relativity, that's all he was saying. His simple, plain English version of the theory of relativity is the larger and closer an object is, the more influence you have.
No, you did go with that. That wasn't that complicated. I think everybody understood that. But that's like the whole thing is like the PE or the GPs, they can't compete with you being like beloved in a neighborhood and people seeing your trucks in there and the neighborhood, like the neighbors are referring you and you're advertising to those people. They're never going to be like that staple of the community type.
Try taking my customer
contractor.
if I'm in that subdivision all the time.
Exactly.
You
I've
know?
got a handful of neighborhoods that I'm not worried. Nobody's coming in there and
Right.
killing the reputation we've built and like the virality we've built in that neighborhood. So we can pour gas on that with the right tech. And then everything gets a little easier. So like I said in my talk yesterday, why are we competing with them in their space where they have the funds to run a $200,000 a month PPC budget, and we're going to go in there with our bullshit $5,000 a month PPC budgets? Well, let's not compete with them in their space. That's what they're doing because they have the budget, but we don't have the budget, so we can't compete there. The leads are going to get more and more expensive. They're the most competitive there. Let's play outside of their space with all these things.
What the world would be if the ants actually figured out how much power they have, you know? Count all the contractors all over the nation. Look at the zones and the subdivisions. Make those zones and those communities your local presence. Nothing can break that barrier. Relativity at play.
Yeah, so like what you're alluding to, and I'll just drive it home, is like all these giant companies that have 19 locations. Well, how do they decide, if they do it correctly, how do they decide where they're going to open up location number 2, number 3, number 4? I think it's called ring analysis, right? And all ring analysis is, in basic terms, is looking at the data of what this high-performing location is doing. Who are our customers? Where are we gaining traction? What are their characteristics? And now let's use ring analysis to find other markets across the country or other markets in the state that have that same type of customer, because we know we do well with that data, with those customers. So we run the reports if all of our data is in the one spot, and we figure out where's the most effective place for us to go.
You want to know what's different in each of those ring analysis? Different contractors, different markets. So that's what I said. You can play the game. You can actually have a competitive chance, because even in ring analysis, yeah, we're going to open up 60 of these nationwide, 600 locations, and all 600 of those locations are local contractors. And that local contractor, if all that fancy talk of relativity, connected, they understand that if they are close and local, they have influence.
We're getting ready to wrap up, but why did you name your company Knowledge Transfer?
There's 4 categories, and let's start with Satan's realm, entertainment, right? Entertainment distracts us. That's the first category. Second one is information, stuff we need to know, should be paying attention to. The third layer is knowledge. And then the last layer is wisdom. Only God, your creator, can grant you that. Me as a human, I can only get you as far as knowledge. So we call it knowledge transfer because we're saying there's a lot of noise up here. There's a lot of distraction here. Once you squeeze all that down, you get down to knowledge. And this is what you need to know, and this is what you need. So it almost eliminates some of the noise that's out there, but then it's yours to interpret that and then turn that into useful stuff. Wisdom, I should not use this, I should use that. Relativity explained, I understand now why I need to talk to my community. I spend money on acquisition marketing that costs 90 cents on the dollar. Retention marketing is 10 cents on the dollar. I got the knowledge, let me apply it now. I don't need a generic CRM, I need given the size of my business, I need to go ERP. See, that's why I called it knowledge transfer. What's that famous saying? Most businesses, if they make it to the 5th year, they have a chance. Well, what's been happening in those 5 years? They've been accumulating a lot of that knowledge, and hopefully some of that turned into wisdom. So the name simply is a derivative of when you get enough of it, you actually have a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for all that. Between your flat fee, like you got guys out there charging percentage of revenue for a software, which makes no fucking sense. Your cost didn't go up because my company got bigger while I used your software. Why are you charging me more money? You've got a flat fee. You don't pay per user. It's just like, here's the software. This is what it costs. We'll build it for what you need it. Whatever you need, the answer is yes, and that's it. Yeah. And then you've introduced all sorts of cool things in this process, but before we wrap up, I'm just going to kind of summarize like my customer journey and the way we're building it in Radiance, because the first step when you sign up with you is you map it all out in Miro. You map out your full system. So for anyone out there, it's like, think about your Kanban workflows. You basically...
You're using my lingo now. Use Kanban. They're going to be like, what the hell's a Kanban?
the columns that you move statuses through. But you basically map out your entire workflows. and then discuss what needs to happen in every status, and then the softwares that you're going to be using throughout the whole thing. That's the first step. Let's map this thing out. Let's get it on a diagram. Let's talk about it, and now let's go build it. What would you say to all the existing softwares out there, technically your competitors, although you say you don't have competitors? What would you say to them when they say custom software is not scalable?
I would say that if you're yielding to Wall Street, that Wall Street says you're going to build something, it's going to create revenue, it's going to be recurring revenue, and you want as many as possible, and don't let them unsubscribe, because then your balance sheet goes down, and you don't want that, because then we frown on you. If you're living on that model, yeah, then you're subject to, that rotunda, If, on the other hand, it's about preserving the middle class and creating solutions that work, then you tell your customer, listen, nobody is building Doug CRM or CRM Andy, We are not building CRM Andy. We got open source, there's our service, then there's your state, then there's what you do, then there's you. So I did it this way, but it's actually the other way around. It's a waterfall. We waterfall down. So your competitor down the street that may be using Radiance is using it completely different than the way we're using it. So we tell every customer, there's the build out time. We go as fast as the slowest person in front of us. How long does it take you to understand how to map things in a Miro? You understand what a Kanban is. If you've ever parked in a parking lot is a Kanban. You move a car from one slot to the other. You're going to tell us what you want to happen in the slots in your business. Once that's mapped out, we repeat to you, is this what you're using? Is this what you do? Boom, we wire it up based on the waterfall, and you're up and running. The good news is, I've got a contractor that for 6 years, their dashboard has not changed. You ever seen software that they change it on you all the time? It'll change when he wants me to change it, So run your business, go do what you're going to do, be unique, and stop worrying about Wall Street telling you what you're supposed to be limited to, because they have a number to meet. Their number is not your number. So that's my only counterpoint to that,
Yeah. I think just to reiterate the waterfall example, It's like open source has 56,000 apps, 56,000.
1 million developers, code modules that you couldn't even begin to count them, but yeah, there's 50,000 plus. Yeah.
Right, so when you say waterfall down, it's like Andy needs an inventory module, he needs it custom, he has specific needs for his business that we went over in this 2-hour Zoom, but I'm not gonna start from scratch. I'm gonna pull an inventory module down from the open source, and now I'm gonna give it to Andy's ERP, but I'm gonna customize it and make it work with the rest of the tools in his system exactly how he needs it. Right. So when you say to the question, how is it scalable? It's because I'm not starting from scratch.
Not you or I.
and it's because obviously the onboarding, we're front loading a lot of work in the onboarding to custom build this thing for you. But then after it launches, it's just refinement and tweaks.
Right. Which is what's interesting you say that, because when someone says, is there a free trial to log in? It's like I just said, there's no Doug CRM Doug. It's being built for you to customize for you. So if you want to see something, you're going to see one we did for somebody else. Right. And some of them don't mind. They're like, yeah, show them. We don't care. We understand mutualism,
Right.
Yeah.
100%. I hope this podcast was clear and like it was obvious how great this tool is, and it was obvious like the things you can do and then why roofers like me need it. But obviously just DM me if you want to talk more about this. I'll just get on the phone with you and we'll chat about it. And then if it leads to me passing it to Raul, then
we answer questions. I mean, everyone should at the very least, what do they say about right entertainment, information, knowledge, and wisdom? You should at the very least get information so you can have some knowledge. And then there's a thing that I live by that I say people make the best decisions when they have full information. So get as much information as possible and then make your best decision. That's all we can do.
Yeah, because after the AccuLynx acquisition, there's a lot of people online trying to figure out where to go. It's a very popular theme right now.
I think you saw me at one of the events, I think it's where we met, that I said, how do you pick your best CRM? First install it, then try to download your data. If you can't download your data, that's not your CRM. Very simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Raul, great.
Thank you,
Great.
brother.
Good
Appreciate
talk.
you. Thank you all.